You know, I never thought I'd say this, and let alone I never thought I'd start a video off by saying these words, but I think that we owe some sort of thanks to Justin Trudeau. Obviously not for the damage he's done to our economy, the hatred that he's imposed among each other and the mockery he's made of Canada on the global stage, but through division and through a form of oppression, because that's what Canada and Canadians have endured over the past several years, Justin Trudeau has found a way unintentionally to allow Canadians to unite. And we're talking about today's Million Mile March in Canada. You have Christians, you have Muslims, you have brown, black, every color of the rainbow, and, well, except the rainbow itself, and white people. Everyone's coming together basically to protect the kids. That's the point. And it's something that hasn't happened yet. A lot of conflicts have been religious based, right versus left. This is not about that. This is about woke culture plaguing our society and trying to infiltrate the education system and go after children. Welcome back to another video, everybody. This is a very, very important one. You're going to want to share this to your Facebook. You're going to want to share it to Facebook groups and get the word out, because this thing is happening today, and chances are, right when I've posted it, it's almost begun. So if you're in and around some of these areas, you may want to just look into it a little bit to see if you can actually go to one of these, because it's probably one of the most important marches or protests or rallies happening in Canada, maybe since the Freedom Convoy. I don't know. I'm not going to compare because that's irrelevant right now. But we're taking a look at the Million Mile March in Canada. And when you look at it, you get a lot of far right Million Man March in context. It's all about far right people and child indoctrination. And it's just a bunch of weird propaganda, assuming that everyone here is on the right side, on the far right spectrum of the political landscape. This is their website, 1 Million March for Children. And when you click on March locations, you have a list in, Alberta, BC, a whole bunch, like every single, province and territory. So make sure that you go check that out so you can see for yourself if it's around where you are. But let's take a look at what it is. And I promise you're going to want to stick around for the full thing, because we're going to be looking at how the government is actually trying to sabotage this. People are trying to literally sabotage, and it's going to turn into just a ruthless amount of protests and counter protests and counter protests and counter protests, and it's never going to end, it seems. Brothers and sisters of humanity, join us in the march to protect our children from indoctrination and sexualization. And it's also in French. Who we are. Uniting diverse backgrounds and faiths, we share a resolute purpose, advocating for the elimination of sexual orientation and gender identity, which is called SOGI in the curriculum, pronouns, gender ideology, and mixed bathrooms in schools. As a symbol of our commitment, students are encouraged to participate in a nationwide school walkout on that day. Additionally, major cities across the nation will host march events. Together, we stand united to safeguard the well-being and innocence of our children. Now, if you're asking yourself if this is an extremist event, if this means you're a radical, extreme person, no. Not at all. SOGI and the entire concept of teaching pronouns to children, to minors, is very weird. You're taking away the innocence that children have. You only have innocence once, and once that barrier gets broken, you can never go back to that level of innocence. Now, there's some people that will try to convince you that yes, you can, and those people have purple hair, nose rings, and they usually always ask for the manager right away. And you have some of those people writing articles like this. This is on the antihate.ca website. Important context about the 1 Million March for Children. Numerous demonstrations are planned to occur at legislators, city halls, and school board offices on September 20th. These demonstrations seek to eliminate sexual orientation and gender identity, SOGI curriculum, and policies from Canadian schools. Here's what we know so far, according to the Anti-Hate. They're supported by a big tent of far-right and conspiratorial groups, including Christian nationalists, COVID conspiracy theorists, sovereign citizens, and anti-public education activists. You know what? That's a little racist because I think some of the organizers are Muslims. So now the government is stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's all fun and games for the government to point names at radical right-wing extremists when they're white, but all of a sudden now they're from a different part of the world, or they're a different color of skin, or they have a different religion than Christianity, and the government's like, oh, we have to be careful how we word things. Seems like anti-hate is not holding back, though. There's at least 2 brands involved in the planned events for September 20th. Hands Off Our Kids and Family Loves Freedom are organizing under the hashtag 1 Million March for Children. There's a significant amount of internal conflict and confusion within social media groups for each brand. The primary source of this conflict is over religiosity and public messaging. Hands Off Our Kids is run by conservative Muslim activists who have made explicit anti-gay and anti-LGBTQ plus statements. Family Loves Freedom, more secular, and claims to accept 2SLGBTQ plus persons as part of their anti-2SLGBTQ plus demonstration. This isn't so much about, well, it's not at all about being gay is wrong or it's a sin or it shouldn't be allowed. You're entitled to your personal views on that topic. This is strictly around letting innocent children, non-consenting children, children that are children for a reason. They have to be babied. They have to be monitored. You have to be very careful what your children consumes in terms of content, in terms of food, in terms of what's going into their brain, who's talking to your kids, that type of stuff. That's normal. That's why kids can't vote. They can't drink. They can't smoke. They can't buy tobacco. They can't gamble. They can't drive a car because their brain is still developing. And if that's insulting, then maybe your brain is still developing too. I don't know what else to say. It has nothing to do with gay people consenting adults. It has to do with children. Keep it away from children. Fix the curriculum so that you're not putting in gender ideology and gender politics, because it's kind of what it is, into curriculum for minors. Let children learn about the world as it is without this weird wokeism of you can be whatever gender you are, because that's some sort of radical twist. And now these adults are preying on the innocence of children, telling them they can be whatever they want. You can't be whatever pronoun you want. Jimmy, you were born a boy, you're a boy. Susie, you're a girl, you were born a girl, you're a girl. Like it's pretty simple. And so this is getting out of control. So I really encourage you, if you're in and around an area of one of these protests, that you go check it out. And because of the rise in these protests, the government is viewing this as some sort of hate towards the gay community, LGBTQS plus, which is very, very confusing in its own, because is it 2S LGBTQI plus or is it LGBTQSLIABCD plus? We don't even know. They don't even know what the hell their own acronym is. So figure it out, folks, before you start telling us what your pronouns are. This is the BC government. Human Rights Commissioner slams hate-fueled anti-LGBTQS plus rallies planned across Canada. It's not about protesting the gay community. If you are a consenting adult, identify as a shoe for all we care. The children should be left alone. Children's brains are very fragile. Stop invoking your weird ideologies and imposing this onto children. There is no homophobia. This isn't anti-gay stuff. Consenting adults can be consenting adults. But imposing this stuff on kids is and should be considered a hate crime. And now the government says, well, hold on here. We can twist kids around however we want because we're the government. So we're going to stand up against this because this is homophobic. Protests and counter-protests for and against Canada's trans and LGBTQ community are being planned across Canada on Wednesday, September 20th. Protesters created a group called 1 Million March for Children, say rally participants are standing together against gender ideology in schools, which is a reference to the SOGI curriculum. Sarah Worthman, an LGBTQ advocate, is helping organize at least 63 counter protests across the country, said Canadians need to stand up for the community outside of Pride events. This has nothing to do with the gay community. This has to do with keeping it away from children. I don't understand why adults are trying to prey on innocent children. Why are you trying to brainwash children? I don't even know what to call it, but it's weird. And now we're going to take a look at one of these weird secret meetings that was recorded, and it's been since gone extremely viral on Twitter. You can see 1 million views of a Zoom meeting of people literally talking about how they're going to sabotage these protests, right? These demonstrations. So this is Odessa on Twitter, and here is the recording. It's boring in the beginning, but gets better. I have just been given a super private secret recording of a joint union meeting held on September 16th, 2023 to organize strategic attacks and counter protests against those parents. This is to disrupt, demoralize, and destroy, bully, and intimidate the protests. I'm trying to find out legal implications. She did eventually find out, and somewhere in the thread says that she has permission to post it, which is why you may or may not have seen it on social media already. But let's take a look here. This is very weird. You have a bunch of adults that are on a Zoom meeting, and they're literally planning to sabotage these types of marches and demonstrations. Very, very weird.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. So my name is Emily. I'm a VP at QP 4600 here in Ottawa at Carleton University, and I'm also a steering committee member of Community Solidarity Ottawa, which has been organizing in Ottawa since the convoy. I would just like to address a couple of points that I heard. First, I'll go with the previous speaker. I was the parent who led the organizing efforts of June 9th on Broadview Avenue in Ottawa when Save Canada, Josh Alexander, and Billboard Chris came. And I have a lot of great information to share and spread about what they did, how they organized, and how we countered. Our numbers were, in fact, a lot bigger than just a couple hundred. I think we had probably closer to 300 or 400, whereas fascists were indeed violent. And I really would like to start sharing that information. I will also drop in a chat about an article the Canadian Anti-Hate Network published that details our stories. In terms of Ottawa, we have just planned a counter protest starting at 9 a.m. on the Supreme Court of Canada lawn. We chose this location because it's just adjacent to where they were building, and we are not in the business of defending the state from fascists. We are in the business of protecting communities and each other to ensure that the hate does not go unopposed in the streets. I encourage you to share that. I'll again drop that in the chat for everyone. And I also just want to speak to something that Vicky brought up, just about how we're opposing this and what we're up against. And I think as much as it's important to understand the fact that we are dealing with a very fractured and difficult to track movement, that they've actually gotten quite a lot better organizing themselves despite all of these internal infighting. One of the reasons why we're having difficulty finding lots of accurate information on march routes, on who's exactly organizing, is not because they're disorganized. It's because they've gotten better at operational security. They're doing a lot more things that's tighter and harder to infiltrate and harder to track. So I just think it's important to kind of keep that in context, that they are able to, at this moment, rise above their internal discord to build a very, very big movement. I also think that I would like to bring attention to the fact that, this is absolutely crucial that we oppose this in the streets. And this is just to kind of build off of other points that other wonderful labor leaders here have talked about, is that we all know that our workplace issues don't stop when we finish work for the day. And we know that society doesn't stop when we walk into work in the morning. And we have to approach this in that we have to keep that in our minds when we are out there. The fascists are organizing in the streets. I'm a researcher at Carleton, and my focus is fascism in Canada, and the signs that I've seen that were rising, that this is far more than just like a far-right transphobic protest. They are fundamentally racist. They're fundamentally anti-union. They are fundamentally queer and transphobic. And it's just a matter of time before they come to us. And the only way, the best way that the fascists have been stopped in the last 100 years has been when we unite in massive numbers in the streets. So this requires us to pivot and start to think about how we can use our inherent strength in a way that we're not used to using. Where we have to remember that our strength isn't just at the bargaining table. It isn't just when we're on the picket line. It isn't just when we're trying to get some better benefits for our workers. It's about flexing that with communities. As a member of Community Solidarity Ottawa, I do just want to plug, sorry, I'm talking super rapid fast. I just don't want to take up everyone's time here, but I do want to mention that as Community Solidarity Ottawa, we were formed in the convoy with lots of affiliates of Labour. And since then, we've seen a massive demobilization post-convoy. This is due to the natural siloing that happens amongst us. We get busy with bargaining. We get busy with other issues. It's a volunteer organization. But in that time of demobilization, they got better. The fascists got way better at organizing. So what we need to do is really encourage everyone to reach out to their local organizations with not just statements of solidarity, but actual tangible material things of people coming out, administrative help to help launch websites, help people build those internal structures so that we can build a movement rather than just putting out fires. Because that's what they're doing. So we need to start catching up a little bit. And we know that we're better than them. We also don't have to worry too much about putting our members and our comrades in unsafe situations, because when we get numbers, we're going to keep each other safe. And we're really good at listening. And that's something that the other side didn't have. And we saw that on the streets on Broadview in June, that they had difficulty kind of remobilizing and being fluid. And so we need to remember that we have the natural solidarity in our hearts, that we can trust and listen to each other and move quickly. So building that trust and testing that trust in the streets is going to be really great and very excellent skill building. So I really strongly encourage everyone to kind of think about how we can really kind of think specifically, get to work. I know we always end up in these meetings all the time, but now we've got to just hit the ground running, start flooding resources. Can we loan staff in kind to existing organizations in Toronto or Ottawa or other cities where they exist? Can we loan office resources? Can we do printing? All of this stuff is going to be huge. QP 4600 as well just passed.
I really find it funny that she quotes history and says, over the course of history, fascism has done this. Over the course of history, how many genders have there been? Anyways, as you can see, there's a lot of tensions between two sides of a coin. One is trying to allow the government to teach whatever they want to your children, my children, and the other side of the coin is standing up for freedom and parental rights. Which side do you choose? Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet already, and consider turning those post notifications on so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel financially, you can do so by checking out the merch shop linked right up there. Or if you want to do something for free, which is also absolutely acceptable and highly encouraged, you can subscribe right there. If you want to continue watching videos like this, you can do so by clicking or tapping right there to watch the next upcoming video. And if you want to watch a little bit of different content, but also Canadian stuff, you can do so by clicking right up there. That's my second channel, House of Canada, also known as the House of Commons Highlights. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.